I happen to agree with your assessment of Mayor Koch in New York City. What do you think will finally have to happen to bring his downfall?
Well, I have a feeling, and maybe it's more of a prediction. I think that the incompetence and corruption of the Koch administration will eventually lead to his resignation or his just having to be forced out, because I think he's that bad. And I believe that the incompetence and corruption will ultimately lead to his having to get out.
You don't know what that was, right? Well, you know what that was? That was just a little bit of a hint about who I think won the year. Ruminate on that. And now, in the spirit of 2018 ending and goodbye to it, my panel will tell us who they think, look at that animation, won the year. Jason, Tiffany, and EJ are back with me. EJ, Dionne, who won the year?
You're going to tell us that Ed Koch won the year? That's
going to be fun.
I want to hear that case. No, the clear winners of the year were the grassroots activists who, from the day Donald Trump was inaugurated, started organizing in their neighborhoods and in their precincts, even, and maybe especially important, in places where they were in a minority, to protect our democracy. We're talking about the mothers and the veterans, the students and the teachers, the religious and the secular, the indivisibles and the Run for Somethings, and all the other groups who took a giant step this November to changing the country. We should celebrate them. We should wish them happy holidays. And may they stay in this fight, because they really showed that action in our democracy can make a real difference. You know, it's interesting. This morning, I'm just scrolling through Twitter, and Cameron Kasky was one of the kids from Parkland, is being attacked and threatened, getting, you know, death threats and threats to him in his email. People are so cruel to some of these young people. But I have to say, I'm with you on the fact that even kids, you know, you really saw a kind of activism and a belief in democracy and understanding that you translate that passion for an issue into then going to the voting booth, registering voters. The Parkland kids were way ahead of that. And so were, as you said, the Indivisibles, all of these groups, Color of Change, all of these groups really did that. Would the country change fundamentally on guns in this election? I think it's one of the stories we need to tell more. Those Parkland kids made an extraordinary difference. If you looked at the exit polls, people who voted on guns this year overwhelmingly voted Democratic. That's right. And the NRA is on the run right now. We've really started to change the country, and I don't think we would have done it without them. I agree with you. After the attack on our election in 2016, thank God that people still believed enough in democracy to participate. Thank God that people registered, voted, despite a lot of voter suppression, continued attacks on our election. People stepped up and voted and really participated. That's a good choice, EJ, Dionne, on our Who Won the Year. But Tiffany's now going to convert you from whatever. But yeah, my team still stands. Tiffany Cross is now going to try to beat that. Beat that, Tiffany Cross. Who won the year?
I don't know if I can beat that, because I so respect and admire your choice, but I will say I think Nancy Pelosi won this year. That red coat? Yeah. You talking about that red coat? Well, or more fashion, we could do a whole conversation and segment on her fashion choices. Yes. But, you know, this year started out with so much speculation around Nancy Pelosi, and, you know, the right really elevated her, and, you know, much to their own peril. And you had all these, you know, revolutionaries, these young people running, saying, we're not voting for her. To which Nancy Pelosi replied, just win, baby. Okay. Like, she was not phased, and she, you know, had to let them know, I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. Everybody's a revolutionary until you show up here and get in this fight. Let me help you. You know, let me help you get here first, and then we can talk about some of your concerns, which she did. She raised over $100 million for the party. And, you know, she also showed that there is not one leader of the Democratic Party. Did any of us ever really believe that Paul Ryan was the leader of the Republican Party, like as a leader at all? None of us ever thought that. And so she did embrace people like Ayanna Pressley, who said, yeah, I'm going to vote for you, but I didn't come here to ask to lead. I'm still going to do my own thing, which I thought was great. I thought she ended the year very well when she handled Donald Trump in that Oval Office like Killmonger did Black Panther. She took that man by his toupee and said, is this your king? Is this your king? You had to ask MAGA, where is your God now? Because he just got handled. She bodied him in the Oval Office, and I thought that was now, if y'all didn't know those references, you did not see the right movie this year. Exactly. Go back and go and watch that movie. Absolutely. You know what's interesting about that, too, is that this was another sort of Democracy 101 thing where I'm not sure that everyone really understands what the Speaker of the House does. Right. Because John Boehner and then Paul Ryan did it in such a sort of timid way in a lot of ways. You know, I think Boehner was a little bit more traditional. Right. Yeah. Did the horse trading and the dealing, and he did a deal to fund the government at the end of his tenure. But Ryan almost seemed to be the employee of the president rather than the leader of a co-equal branch of government and the third in line to the White House. Or someone serving his constituency, which he did, and his boss was the president, not his constituents, which is scary. That's not the way democracy wouldn't have an Affordable Care Act, I think, without Nancy Pelosi. And that's an interesting flip on Ryan. I think that Nancy Pelosi really
really pushed President Obama and said, don't give up on this.
Yep.
This thing can pass.
Yeah.
And he said himself that she made an enormous
And properly filled, a Speaker of the House can be an incredibly powerful leader if they're willing to use their power. And the thing that has been the most distressing, I think, about this era is the unwillingness of Republicans to jealously guard the power of the first branch of government. They've essentially said that we will make the Congress subordinate to the president because he's in our party. That's not the way the Constitution is
And they're trying to take away her victory because they're saying because she made those comments in the Oval Office about the wall that he didn't have the votes. And I just want to caution Republicans, your willingness to bend at the ridiculous will of this president is not her failure. No. That's your failure. That's your defeat.
They control the government. If they want to get the votes, get the votes.
And couldn't get it done.
And couldn't get it done. All right, well, there are two really good options on the table. Jason Downs, I don't know what's going to happen to you. But you struck me speechless before, so I'm not sure I'm 100% rooting for you right now.
I understand.
You know, to a certain extent I am. But I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell us who won the year.
So here's who won the year.
Okay.
I have established a reputation on the show of being a bit of a cynic.
I
believe you call me a cynic from time to time. So this is a very, very amazing winner. The winner of the year is the state of Georgia. I have to say that after all this time of cynically believing that no place in the South could ever get turned, what I saw happen there this fall with the activism and the effort and the campaigning, the basically Hogwarts School for Black Girl Magic that they did down there to get so many people involved, I believe that the state of Georgia is going to become the next swing state. I'm from Ohio. Ohio, I think, is pretty much just West Virginia all over again. Democrats are going to have to expand their field in 2020. Everybody who was active down there this year, there's going to be an interesting Senate race in 2020. That we're going to see in Georgia. Absolutely. I think that state is going to be flooded with money. I think you're going to have more campaign people down there. I think you're going to see Stacey Abrams be active. I've said this before. They were great candidates. Gillum lost. Beto lost. Abrams got robbed.
Well, she did. But here's the question. Because the effort by Brian Kemp was so successful at massive, unprecedented, well, not unprecedented, but, throwback voter suppression that felt almost like the 1950s.
Yes.
And they still retained the governorship and they still retained the Secretary of State's office.
Yes.
Meaning they can replicate that again in 2020.
They won't
How
be
do
able
you
to
turn
replicate
Georgia?
They won't be able to replicate because basically you've got so many lawsuits against this guy right now. You've got like a Bob Mueller of Cobb County. Everything he does is happening. You've got essentially the state Supreme Court is probably going to put a consent decree on them saying that you can't make any kind of changes in polling places or polling rules without going through the courts. I think, look, Democrats have got to figure out a way to win this presidency without Ohio. You're not going to win in Arizona. Florida is always going to be a swing state. Texas is 25 years away.
I think Florida's a red state.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's going red. Your next stop has got to be North Carolina and Georgia, and I think everything that happened this year has put this state on the map.
I just want to defend Ohio and Florida because I don't think those states have yet turned. And I could make a long case, but instead I just want to underscore something about Georgia because what Stacey Abrams did show is that you can take the voter suppression and turn it into a voter mobilization effort. And that she raised turnout by pointing out to people, somebody is trying to take your right away. And there is nothing that makes people want to exercise their rights more than to have somebody endanger them. So there's a playbook there that almost worked in the face of all of this voter suppression.
In 2016, Democrats only made 3 stops to that state after the conventions. They didn't spend any money in that state. They pretty much just seceded to Donald Trump. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think Republicans and Democrats are going to be focused on this is the place we can flip. This is the place that may be a bellwether. If Trump country can actually be changed, it's not going to be Ohio. It's going to be a place like Georgia.
And if Stacey Abrams can get one thing to happen in the Democratic Party, which is that she showed massive voter registration is still the fundamental act of democracy that has to be done. It's the fundamental ingredient to winning elections. The Democratic Party is not in the business of spending money on massive voter registration anymore. Her organization did it.
Well,
and we need automatic registration.
And you're from Georgia, too. So let's get
I was so ready to drag Jason.
I know.
We were all waiting. We were waiting.
I used to be a cynic. I have seen the light.
Okay. Thank you. We've already given our choices on who won the year, but I just have to give an honorable mention to Can't Stop, Won't Stop with Tasha Brown.
Oh, yes.
Not just in Georgia, but in Mississippi, across the South. She was out there hitting the pavement.
Yes, she was.
And she was an operative who really helped deliver some almost victories.
Yes.
Some of these
and some real victories. Lucy McBath was a big
gun rights advocate who
those congressional seats in Georgia are a real sign.
Newt Gingrich's seat is in the hands of an African-American woman who was a mother of the movement. All right. Well, you all have given your nominees, but now I'm going to give you guys the correct answer. I appreciate all of your efforts. My tease earlier, I don't think, do we have time to play it again? I don't think we have time to play it again. Prosecutors I say prosecutors won. So Donald Trump teased in that little clip that we said that he thought that Ed Koch was going to be prosecuted or being thrown out of office. But this year, the pillars of our democracy all seemed incredibly shaky. They all seemed to be crashing down around us. But the courts still held together. You still did have action that was at least setting up to hold even the President of the United States accountable. We have found out that a lot of what's in our Constitution are suggestions. Right. They're not laws. They're just mores and rules. Donald Trump doesn't abide by any of them. Right. But you now have Robert Mueller. You've also got the Eastern District of Virginia. You've got prosecutors in New York. You've got the Attorney General of New York. Prosecutors, I do believe, are going to own the narrative in 2019, as do people who vote in 2020. But I think the people to keep your eyes on in 2019, prosecutors.
Not only do I agree with that, when Mueller finally drops his mixtape, right, Trump is going to explode like a piñata. And every single prosecutor across the country who has future political motives is going to say, I sued him in this state, I sued him in this state. This will not be over after February.
I hate to disagree with Joy ever, but without the support of the people and the organizing that's going on out there, the prosecutors can't do their work.
You know what? We're going to do a special dispensation and say all of you are correct. I'm going to use my fairy godmother wand, wave it across this entire panel.
I feel so much better.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate you all. Jason Johnson, Tiffany Cross, EJ Dionne. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, happy everything to all of you. Thank you guys.